So, in a large company, I think it's important that you have mentors. Can you talk a little bit about who you worked with and for at Pfizer and how they mentored you through your 30 plus year career there?
Absolutely. Um, I saw over a 30-year period in Pfizer, which was a multinational company, a shift that was so useful to me. I know that in 1977, 78 timeframe, I was so eager, my whole life has been impatient. I was so eager to take on a P&L responsibility, profit and loss. So basically, I wanted to run a business unit within the company. That was not at all possible because I was a foreigner. It just wasn't done. You stay in technical side. That's what you do. You don't really go into P&L responsibility. And that's fine. I took that. But over that 30-year period, the people who helped me become who I am today were all my colleagues. I want to name so many of them. Being humble at heart, I just take everyone as a mentor. But there is one that I do want to mention by name. Mentors have played a big role in my life. And, earlier I mentioned about Ross Smith. At Pfizer, I came across another one, Walter Nazarewicz. Walter was country manager for Pfizer in Japan, and he returned to the US to take over the Pfizer Minerals business. So he came as president of Pfizer Minerals, and I was his technical person. And the business grew. And the business grew because of his hard work. I learned from him. He would work 18-hour days, and he would make us work. I have received calls from him at 11 p.m. saying, "What about this? And why can't you go there tomorrow morning?" And I say, "It's 11 p.m. today, and I don't have anything to pack and go tomorrow, but I can do it day after." The drive that he had was my uh, inspiration. The amount of efforts he put in, we as a business and him individually would basically have memorized the customers and their locations and what were our targets there. And we all had to memorize that and remember that. The next target is this, and that's 50,000 ton plant. The third target is this, and that's an 80,000 ton plant. So you put more effort there and slightly less effort there. He also was serving as president of Ukrainian Institute. Now, Ukrainian Institute, there is a significant Ukrainian American population in New York, and he was president of the Ukrainian Institute, which has a beautiful building on 79th Street and just outside of Central Park. And that building was tax-free. Mayor Koch of New York had his eyes on that building, and he wanted it to be taxed. And Walter was fighting a litigation against City Hall, the proverbial City Hall, and at the same time running this business and making progress in the business and making progress in Ukrainian Institute. And I saw that as a tremendous encouragement to me that there is no reason why you remain focused only on work. You can do other things. You can help your group any way you want to. And I picked SME, and I decided that I would take Walter's example and do service to my profession. And I took on SME as my primary cause. I owe a lot to Walter. He was extremely generous to me, sharing his knowledge. He offered me if I wanted to go to Sloan in MIT and do my MBA, and I declined because I had just started my young family, and I declined that. But it was great to have that offer. So the only thing that I do remember clearly is Walter was in Finland on business, and he had a heart attack. They took him to the hospital there. As soon as he came to, he called his wife and said, just send Nikhil over. And the confidence he had in me was something that I'm still choking, thinking that he called me and not his own son or son-in-law or someone else. But he called me for that. And I flew to Finland to bring him back.
So Walter played a large part of your success at Pfizer, I would say.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Are there others that you'd like to mention, or?
There are so many of them. George Wells was one of them. George was an amazing individual. He taught me about use of industrial minerals in paint. Paint was a big application for us, or in glass making, which was another big application. Hank Bailey, Henry Bailey was my boss for many years, and he taught me the power of what you can do in the plants. Because when I was manager of manufacturing, Hank was my boss. Hank's interesting family. He came from the original Mayflower, so he could go up to the Mayflower people from Keene, New Hampshire. I learned some accent there from him, but what a wonderful guy he was, and Walter. So yeah.
So, working for a large corporation, lots of things can happen to you in your career. Divisions can be sold off. You can get bosses routinely changed on you, and having different reporting structures. If you were talking to a young person, how would you guide them in managing their success at a big company if they were to work for a big company going forward?
Big companies are in some ways blessings, because one thing, if you have a boss that you don't like for some reason, just stay in there because another good one will come along. Or you change your ways to adjust to the new boss. Um, we did encounter, Dave, what you mentioned. Our company was spun off. Pfizer Corporate decided that they wanted to focus on healthcare. And somehow industrial minerals business was as far from healthcare as you can get. And so they decided to divest of that company. But I must say, Pfizer was still, again, a very benevolent company. They, instead of selling us to some other mining company or minerals company, they spun us off as an independent IPO company traded on New York Stock Exchange. Not only that, Pfizer also forgave our debt of almost $150 million. Pfizer absorbed that. So we as a company became independent in 1992, October 23rd, as a company called Minerals Technologies, Inc., totally debt-free. We, in fact, had to take on debt just to have a line of credit. So those were good things. To a young person watching this, I would say this is a great opportunity to adjust your own selves. Bosses come and go. Some are good, some are not good. But you stay in and you will be okay. Multinational companies offer a tremendous opportunity to have exposure to local culture, local way of doing things, and bringing in your own skill to help those local units. So, a mining company operating in Indonesia, for example, great opportunity for a young person to bring in his or her knowledge.
So you have often mentioned to me that you did more than your job description. What do you mean by that? And can you describe that for us?
Sure. Walter always encouraged, you got to do more than that. That's not enough. That's not good enough. And he would go on and on in his Long Island accent. But I did. And one of the first things I did was to reach out to our customers and our competitors with whom I had great friendly relationships. One thing I did was to become a founding member of Calcium Carbonate Association of Europe. The reason for that, we were not really producing calcium carbonate in Europe, but we were producing synthetic calcium carbonate in Europe. So in some ways, we needed to be with the calcium carbonate family. We were not mining, but we were still producing and selling in the same field that our competitors were selling. So I created, and I was lucky to get support from all those competitors who didn't have to work with this American company, but they did. And we created Calcium Carbonate Association of Europe. That association then became a part of another big organization I was on the ground floor with. It was IMA Europe, Industrial Minerals Association of Europe. That led to IMA North America. So again, Industrial Minerals Association and having the industrial minerals community come together uh, as a voice for things that were happening to us was one of the things I did on the side. I also was a member of TAPI, Technical Association of Pulp and Paper Industry. And in that, I became an advisor to the research effort at Georgia Tech University. So they put me on the research advisory board of Georgia Tech. So those were some other non-business activities that I took on. And then, of course, SME. Spent a lot of time in SME.
We'll get to SME.
We will get to SME. Yes.
So I know that your family is important to you, very important to you. I've had the pleasure of going to a couple of your daughter's weddings. Um, and if anybody hasn't been to an Indian wedding before, I encourage them. It is well worth the experience. But talk a little bit about how you and Nishi met and raising children and all the traveling in the working world that you were involved in at the same time.
Yeah, that's a great question, Dave. My family is dear to me, very, very dear to me. And they have been with me all along, supporting what I do without hesitation. There is absolutely nothing held back. Uh, Nishi and I have a, a, a traditional Indian how how weddings were arranged in India. It was an arranged marriage. I met her on January 15th of 1981. I got engaged to her on January 18th of 1981. I got married on January 26th of 1981. So didn't know her at all before the 10 days before the wedding. And on January 31st, I came here because I had to watch Super Bowl. Uh, but then I had to go back to work. Then Nishi joined later. It was a tremendous amount of adjustment for her, and I appreciate that very much. I had already been in the US 12 years by then, or 13. For her, everything was new. And here is this guy whom she never knew. She's marrying him, coming over, and he backs off and goes to Finland or to Sweden or to Denmark or to Germany, and she just lives alone in the house. And she adjusted so well. I'm so proud of her, and I'm so thankful to her. This is my way to say thank you. We have three children. Shamik came in 1982. And then Pracheta came in 84, and my youngest came in 87. And all this time, I regret one thing. I missed a lot of their schooling because I was traveling all the time. That was the business. Sometimes I took on travel because I wanted to, like going to SME meetings, fall and winter. They used to have both two meetings in those days. I'll go to both of them, and going to PLA meetings, going to EMA meetings, and all of them, and happy. So I got a tremendous amount of support from them. My family is very dear to me, and I'm very proud of them. I get emotional thinking about them, and yes, those weddings, yeah, they cost me some money, but that's what the money was for. So I enjoyed it.
Well, I enjoyed being there. I can tell you that. So tell us a little bit about some of your exciting travel adventures that you experienced.
Yes, yeah, travel. Uh, I enjoyed travel. I always did, and it was always the underlying reason was to learn something. Every time you go, you learn something, and that was what driving me. Um, I've been to a place called Jokkmokk, Jokkmokk, in Sweden. And that's where they have a huge limestone deposit. And I went there to explore that. We chose not to acquire that because it was remote and it was in tribal area. Now, you don't realize, but in Sweden, there is some tribal area too. The language is different, the culture is different. And it was way up north of Arctic Circle. We decided it just wasn't our expertise, so we didn't buy that. I've been to Tallinn in Estonia. I've been to Sumatra, all on company business. I've been to Thailand. I've taken trips in the Concorde 3 times. Uh, One time from London to here, a celebrity was with me as a passenger. It was former Texas Governor John Connolly. He was at that time President Reagan's Treasury Secretary, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So he was a co-passenger. Didn't talk to him though, gave him his space. Next time I was flying from here to Paris, and the guy sitting next to me was President Carter's National Security Advisor, Cyrus Vance. And the third time, I was coming back from either London or Paris on Concorde, was a person I talked to actually, was the singer Stevie Wonder. Talked to him. He was a wonderful guy. Enjoyed talking to him. Those are some exciting things I had. I enjoyed that very much. Um, Travel has been, and I still keep doing it. I'm still traveling all over to pick up things and learn things. A small town in Sweden was one of the best places that I could take my family to, and we did, and all that.
So can you talk a little bit about the industry evolution over the last 30, 40 years? Greater emphasis on environmental, some of it by choice, some of it by regulation requirements. Uh, Talk a little bit about the health and safety improvements the industry's made and how we've really become a pretty global business.
Well, I think globalization has helped us in many ways because the demands that come in from other partners who are outside of the US make you think differently. And to me, that was one of the biggest things that happened as a globalized business environment. I, I have seen companies providing just lip service to the concept of sustainability and safety and environmental stewardship, just lip service to actual commitment. That's a very gratifying thing for me to see at this stage in my career, to see how companies are shifting their thought process. Pressure from shareholders is one of them, pressure also from partners and competitors. Competition has become pretty much local now, although they are global companies, but competition is here. And you have to remain competitive, and so you do these things. More you do focusing on health and safety and sustainability, more it is contributing to your bottom line. And I think businesses have now started realizing that. There was resistance initially when during the early stages. One of the things that I do feel is happening still is the social acceptance of certain industries, mining one of them. Prime example of how mining and chemicals is this, nobody wants it in their backyard. And that is, I believe, as a mining person, unfair to us, but at the same time, we have to react to people's expectations from us. I don't necessarily like the fact that industry is consolidating. Big mining companies are merging together to create one bigger mining company. Suppliers are consolidating. If you really look at US suppliers of equipment to mining industry, they are all either Swedish or Danish. Think about it. The big US companies like Joy and others, Denver Equipment Company, they don't exist anymore. So that consolidation basically hurts innovation because there is no incentive for them to create new things. So I do regret consolidation. Customers are consolidating, limits your business. When paper companies are coming together, you now have only one customer and not two or three that you had before. So those are some things that I've seen over the years. And all I would tell young listeners is, gotta deal with it. Competition, you have to keep it alive because that will keep innovation alive.
Nikhil, in your experiences of working during the years, do you have any particular patents or papers or publications you're proud of and you'd like to share with us?
Absolutely. The, for several years of my career at Pfizer, I was basically a manager, an administrator, didn't do hands-on research. But there was some that I did. And I, I did get patent on a product called the alkali-resistant glass fiber. The concept was to take talc and limestone and blend them in certain proportions and make a fiber out of it, which demonstrated, to our surprise, an alkali resistance. So the advantage of that would be to use that as a filler in corrugated cement areas, roof in third world countries, and it would have been a huge market. We licensed that technology out to a French company and just did it that way because it was not business close to what we wanted to grow in. So again, that's an area that Pfizer gave us a out. We were open to licensing technologies and we were open to licensing out our technologies. We were not patenting a lot because that would require you to divulge information. But we were patenting enough to make sure that we could keep competitive advantage. So during my tenure as head of R&D, we filed for 55 patents. And then all of them have to be filed globally and that just added a lot of cost. But the company was able to afford that. I was invited to write some chapters on talc. It's a unique mineral, something very close to my heart, and I've done a lot of work in it. So I've been contributing chapters to TAPI and to polymer industry on use of talc. I did that. Publications, I didn't do many. I made a couple of presentations at SME, more presentations at TAPI, and a couple of publications that I'm very proud of are what I co-authored with Jessica Kogel and Mark Herford, and we co-authored chapters on sustainability as it applies to industrial minerals. So yes, I've done a few. I could have done a lot more, but my job didn't allow me to do much on publications.
Very good. Nikhil, I know that you're very good at solving problems and finding solutions to challenging issues. Is there one or two that you might share with us where you found a solution that was difficult at first, but you found a win-win for everybody?
Sure, of course. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a compliment, and I thank you for that. I'm not necessarily the best at it, but I try to be innovative in finding solutions. Um, we did a lot of business in Scandinavia. Scandinavia is where paper making really started, because as some people like to say, all they have is trees, nothing else up there. So you cut the trees down and make paper out of it. Not true, but okay. So we did a lot of business. In Finland, I had 30 people reporting to me in Finland with a lab in a small town called Parainen. Sweden, big paper maker, extremely astute businessman, but a great opportunity for my company to do business there. And so I was dealing with a Swedish paper mill to develop a 125,000 ton plant over there. And we were coming into good negotiations. Things were progressing well. And in any contract, one of the last items is conflict resolution. What do you do to resolve the conflict, if there is any? Now, we are going as friends and we are working together and it's all great. There is no conflict, but there sometimes is in a business environment. So you had to address that. You just can't say we are never going to have conflict. So that clause was one where we got stuck, because the CEO of the host company in Sweden insisted that any litigation would be in Stockholm and would be under Swedish law. And of course, we were Americans. We were not going to give in to that. So my boss here said, Walter said, no way. It's going to be New York, and it's going to be laws of New York. Go figure it out. So here I am sitting in a small town called Silverdalen in Sweden and calling him. There were no cell phones, and using my brain to do something about it. So I came up with a solution. I worked with my counterpart there and I said, look, we don't want us to go to court. So we have to somehow address this clause and make our bosses happy, but we need to do some way that we're building a deterrent for anyone to go to court. So I said, what if you, Sweden, want to take us to court, it has to be in New York. And if we want to take you to court, we'll be in Stockholm. We floated it up. Everybody accepted that, and we moved on. We haven't taken each other to court from what I know. I've been away all these years, but it was a good business, and we did it. So that's one example. I'm happy that I could do that. Conflict resolution is one of the major challenges that we face as businesses. There is conflict, and we have to resolve that. Using innovation is the way to do it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Nikhil, I want to change topics a little bit with you here and talk a little bit about some of the things you've done in your career with SME, AIME, and some other philanthropic organizations. You briefly mentioned joining SME or AIME back then. Tell us a little bit more about that and what was driving you to work inside of the SME organization and other groups that you belong to.
Thank you for that. As you know, SME has been my love of my life. And that is my serving my profession. That's really what drove me. As an engineer and as a engineer in the mineral community, mineral industry, I felt obligated to provide some service to an organization like SME. I mentioned earlier, 1968, I joined as a student member, and Ross Smith paid my dues. I'll never forget that. And in 1970-71 timeframe, I started regularly attending SME meetings. And I started working on committees within SME in about 76-77 timeframe. And after that, at that time, I initially joined um, MPD, a division, because I was a mineral processor. I am a mineral processor. And then as the business was industrial minerals business, I switched over to the industrial minerals division. I have been beneficiary of tremendous amount of support from members at SME. It has been a give and take. It's not been one way. And that's another thing that my mentor, Walter Nazarewicz, taught me. It's a two-way street. It's not one way. Don't think that you are doing things. You are getting a lot that you don't even realize. As even today, when an SME member calls me, I respond to that call in a matter of 2 to 3 hours, regardless of what the question is. And I'm happy that people do call me. The first person I encountered at SME who I looked up to was Roshan Bapu. I think the thing attracted me to him was the fact that he was from India, looked like me, a short guy, and his wife and I could talk in our mother tongue, which was a great gift to me to have this wonderful conversation at every SME meeting. Another one that I dearly remember is Ben Severinghouse. I had met Ben earlier in PLA, Pulverized Limestone Association, but he was a competitor, a fierce competitor. But he and Bob Fries just helped me so much to learn the ropes. Within the industrial minerals group at SME, Jack Burst. Jack was he actually wanted to hire me to work for him. He was vice president of something at Dresser Industries down in Houston. And he would just, every time he would meet me at SME, he would say, one of these days, I'm going to get you. And one of these days, you're going to come down to Houston and talk to me. So one time I was in Dallas and I decided to drive down. It was a beautiful day, as all days in Texas are. I drove down to Houston and I said, here I am, let's talk. So on the spot, he offered me a job. And on the spot, I declined because I was fine where I was. But our friendship just continued from there on. When he became SME president, I don't recall the year, 1996 or 5 or one of those, he put me on not only his nominating committee, but also on his executive committee. In those days in SME, executive committee was the one that made all the decisions. That's when I learned the inside of how SME works. What are the pros and what are the cons and all that. Later on, after Jack had stepped down and I think kind of he moved back to Rolla, I stayed in touch with him. But then I had another mentor that came along, and that was Frank Holstebrook. Frank was extremely knowledgeable. He wanted to run for SME president. But his business was such that it was a one-man business. And he said, if I did SME, I would lose my business. And so he said, why don't you do it? And so I ran for SME presidency in the year 2000. I lost the election, but that's fine. I continued on at SME and then eventually became president in 2010. Along came great friendships. I want to specifically mention great friends like Bill Langer, um, Jessica Kogel, and a whole bunch of others, but really amazing, amazing friends that I have been able to make. Frank Alsobrook twisted my arm so bad that I was crying in pain to become associate editor of IMAR 7, Industrial Minerals and Rocks, edition 7. Jessica was one of the senior editors, and then I joined her and Stan Kurkowski and Jim Barker as the fourth senior editor. It was a very good learning experience for me. I got to know a lot about other industrial minerals that I didn't know about. I got to know how people do volunteer effort. 127 authors, 24 associate editors, and 4 senior editors to come up with this 1,600-page volume, which remained on the bestseller at SME for at least the first 2 years of its publication. It was a great feeling. It really was a wonderful feeling. Contribution to my profession, specifically in the industrial minerals side, was the way I looked at it. So that's my association with SME, and it still goes on.
Tell us a little bit more about you got involved in AIME for a period of time after SME.
Well, when I got that WAME scholarship, I mentioned that earlier, that's when I resolved in my little mind, this 20-year-old kid had decided, I'm going to do something about AIME someday. And I didn't know uh, the relationship that WAME had with AIME, and that WAME had eventually moved on to become a part of SME. That was irrelevant to me, but I knew that I had to provide service to AIME. And I'm ever so grateful to the SME board for helping me achieve that goal by nominating me to be a trustee of AIME, then eventually serving it as its president. AIME exposed me to the other member societies, and I enjoyed dealing with all of them. Just amazing people who are doing things to help the profession, regardless of what it is. So that's my AIME. And again, I thank the SME board for putting me in that situation where I could be of some help to AIME.
Nikhil, you've earned a lot of awards from SME and been recognized numerous times. Are there any awards that are special to you, or is there one more special than the others?
They all awards are dear to me because they are from my colleagues. They come to me from my peers. They come to me to recognize what I have done or to encourage me to do more. But there is one that I want to talk about as a specific award, and that is the Mackey Alumnus of the Year award that I received in 1995. That was the first time I got an award. And I felt a tremendous upliftment that, yes, I can do things that people recognize. Till then, I didn't know whether people were recognizing. It wasn't important whether people recognized. But to see that people recognize and they say, come to Reno and we want to give you this award was a tremendous upliftment. The second award that I feel most important to me, all of them are, please, the Applin, the Hardinge, the McConnell, even the Ivan B. Ran, very great awards. But to me, the award that SME gave me to put me on AIME track was the biggest award that I feel. That opportunity is the award that I got. And I value that the most because I could fulfill one of my desires to work.
So you had the opportunity to be the SME president in 2010. Tell us a couple of things that you feel you accomplished during your tenure as the SME president.
Yes, during my tenure as SME president, just to go back a couple of years, in 2006 or 2007, Barbara Filas, the SME president a few years prior, established a committee, an ad hoc committee, to look at SME's governance and structure. We had 45 board members, something along that line. And I was part of that committee where we developed a governance where SME would have 9 board members. So that we trimmed that down. That new governance structure, which was new then, was something I needed to boost when I took over as SME president. So one thing that I consider as one of my contributions to SME during my year of presidency is to establish a strategic plan that boosted that type of governance structure. Second thing I feel as a contribution to SME is that I established the first standing committee to look at SMEs' participation in a different way into the health and safety aspects. So I'm happy to see that today we have a thriving division within SME, which is the health and safety division. We already had the environmental division, but to have health and safety as a division with focus on that was something I felt was very, very good. The third thing that I can look at as I'm an internationalist. I believe in global everything. And so the third thing that I feel good about is to kick off by writing a letter to all other English-speaking mineral associations globally to come together and talk about, let's just exchange notes. And that is currently known as Global Mineral Professionals Alliance. And I know that, Dave, you continue to foster that relationships, and that's very dear to me. And I'm very happy that it is continuing on.
So there's hopefully some young people listening to us today. How would you characterize some of the skills that you've picked up and the opportunities you've had that have helped you in your career by being a part of SME?
Well, everybody says networking. Networking is SME. You can talk about your work without any fear of competition. And that platform that is available to you is again another SME opportunity. I believe, honestly, that at SME, I always interacted with suppliers. I wanted to know what new thing they were doing. I wanted to find out, and I wanted to tell them what I needed, because only when you tell them what you need is when they might come up with a solution for you. And do that to 3 or 4 other suppliers. You talk to your friends in industry, and they will teach you. Mining people are usually extremely open. You can visit a mine and go through their processing plant without any hesitation because everyone has similar circuits. Everyone has similar problems too. So it was great. Industrial minerals, on the other hand, was different. We were very secretive about having people walk through because sometimes that was the thing that was unique to us. I'll give you one simple example. My own company, I developed the concept of using a air classifier to make fine particles from a Japanese flour milling operation. I visited a flour milling operation in Japan on one of my tours. And I saw that they were splitting out very fine flour for high protein, high end bread application because they had done some research that said that finer particles had more protein. I don't know how true that is, but that's what they did. So they developed a classifier. And I said, this is what I want to use so that I can produce an ultra fine mineral particle to sell. And so I did that. I incorporated that. That became our trade secret for a long period of time. So to the listeners out there, I would say, use your imagination. Go out and look at industries that are not related to you because you will learn something from them and bring it to your divisions and your jobs and take advantage of that.
So I know that SME and AIME haven't been the only activities you've been involved in outside of work. Tell us a little bit about some of the involvement in the United Way, the hospitals, and tell us a little bit about being a Hindu priest.
Yes, of course. I'm currently working with the local hospital to raise funds. I've been with them several years now uh, as a uh, uh, as a community representative on the local hospital's board, and it has been rewarding. United Way is another one that I have taken on as a cause that I support. And having been Pfizer's highest ranking person in this area, I've established local contacts with local businesses at a higher level and then am able to encourage them to match their funding for United Way and things of that nature. Um, I'm still serving mineral community as a member of the board of governors of the National Mining Hall of Fame. And that is, again, a very rewarding experience for me. And as far as the other side, the community service to my Indian immigrant community, I am a priest. I provide those services to people who are looking for a priest to marry the young ones or to have ceremony or a housewarming ceremony or things of like that. Us Indians do many ceremonies and any occasion to get together and eat. So many ceremonies, and I do that. One that I have specifically tried to stay away is funerals. I somehow don't like. I did my mom's funeral, but that's just about it. I'm not doing any more funerals. I don't like to do it. I am a priest, and so I have to maintain certain purity of my body. As a result, I'm a vegetarian. Never got tempted to smoke or eat meat. If I have maybe by mistake eaten meat, I'm okay with that. But no, I'm a vegetarian, and I like that.
So as we wrap this up a little bit, Nikhil, what message would you want people to have from you as a takeaway for today?
I am the example of a beneficiary of great people around you. I have had great people working with me, for me, around me, and I have looked up to even outsiders who I admire. Surround yourself with good people. That's one message I give you. If you do that, you grow with them. The other message I want to give to people is expect the most from you and least from others. Don't expect people to do things for you, but expect the most from you. You got to do things. Whatever it is that you want to do, you got to do it. And don't look at somebody didn't do their part. One other motto I have lived with is be very generous with praise. Not false praise, but where it is due. Just praise person's effort and be kind when it comes to some failures that you might encounter in people who work with you or for you, whatever. And so that's the message I want to give to people. Just be kind to others.
Well, Nikhil, thank you for your time today. We appreciate all of the comments, the thoughts, hearing about your career. It's fascinating, and I thank you for contributing to the AIME oral history program here today. So thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you very much.